Ciphers of Time, Awakening the Legacy. Chapter 2, Ocean's Heart. Shantanu, the name echoed in Manu's mind, bouncing off walls of disbelief. He felt the ground sway beneath him as the unknown woman in front of him has made the absurd claim of being his brother. Manu's fists clenched at his sides, the muscles in his jaw tightening as he stared at the woman before him. The fluorescent lights above buzzed like a swarm of agitated bees. His voice was a low growl, simmering with a mix of frustration and disbelief. "Is this some kind of a joke?" Manu sneered, his eyes darkening with anger. "My brother is lying on the bed, brain dead, and you are trying to pull some kind of stunt on me?" The woman met his gaze, her own eyes brimming with an urgency that bordered on desperation. There was something painfully familiar in the way she squared her shoulders against his skepticism, a stubbornness that Manu recognized all too well. "No, Manu, please trust me," she implored, her voice steady despite the surreal claim she had just made. "This is not a joke. I am still trying to understand and digest what exactly happened. I am not yet completely sure, but all I know is that I am in this woman's body and there is nothing I can do about it." Her plea sliced through the fog of Manu's irritation, seeding a kernel of doubt amidst the certainty of his disbelief. As the sound of distant footsteps echoed along the corridor, Manu studied the woman, searching for any hint of deceit. Yet all he found was a raw honesty that gnawed at the edges of his resolve. For a moment they stood in silence, the air charged with questions that neither dared to voice. Manu's rational mind grappled with the impossibility before him, but the undercurrents of his deep-seated curiosity began to stir, whispering of mysteries that defied explanation. Could it be that his brother's voice now resided in the vessel of a stranger? Was it truly Shantanu who sought recognition from within the unfamiliar contours of this woman's form? The absurdity of the situation warred with the sincerity in the woman's eyes, leaving Manu teetering on the precipice of reason and myth. With a quickening pace, Manu hastily walked away, wanting to escape the unbelievable encounter that had left him feeling trapped in the hospital corridor. The sensation of his heart pounding against his chest was a stark contrast to the numbing disbelief that had settled in his mind since arriving in India. "Please," the woman called from behind, her voice tinged with urgency, but Manu did not slow down. He wanted nothing more than distance, the space and silence to process the chaos that threatened to upend his world. Shantanu's inert form on the hospital bed loomed in his memory, a haunting image that mocked the possibility of truth in the woman's wild claim. Then, as if propelled by some unseen force, her words cut through the air, anchoring him to the spot despite his intent to flee. "In the orphanage, do you remember we hid the time capsule in the garden as a memory of our stay there?" The mention of the time capsule halted Manu mid-stride, turning him into a statue amidst the flow of nurses and visitors. It was a secret shared in the innocence of their youth, a pact between two brothers who had only each other in a world that had cast them aside. A shiver traced its way down his spine, and for a fleeting moment, the walls of reality seemed to tremble. There was no way she could know of the capsule. No way unless... The thought clawed at his skepticism, demanding attention. Manu's breath caught in his throat, and he found himself pivoting slowly, facing the woman once again, his expression a complex tapestry of confusion and a dawning sense of wonder. The corridor seemed to stretch endlessly as Manu's footsteps faltered, the hum of the hospital fading into a distant murmur. His heart hammered against his ribcage, a rhythmic accusation that amplified with every thud. He had entrusted their secret to no soul, a sacred relic of brotherhood buried beneath layers of time and dirt. Yet here it was, unearthed by the voice of a stranger. With a sharp intake of breath, anger ignited within him, burning through the fog of disbelief. "This time he has crossed the limit," Manu seethed, his words slicing through the air with an edge sharpened by betrayal. He advanced towards the woman, each step a thunderous echo in his own ears. "I flew all the way across from London hearing the news that my brother is in coma, only to realize that the attention-seeking idiot is playing a game with me. This is a new level of irresponsibility from him." His chest heaved with a mixture of exertion and suppressed rage, eyes locked onto hers, searching for any flicker of deceit. The notion that Shantanu might fake such a tragedy for whatever perverse reason twisted his insides. Confusion marred the woman's features, her brows knitting together in a delicate frown as she absorbed the harsh words spilling from Manu's lips. She blinked rapidly, a clear sign of bewilderment. "What are you saying?" Her voice held a tremor, perhaps of fear or genuine ignorance. Manu felt the heat of his anger surge through him, a fiery current that refused to be quelled by her puzzled expression. Each word he spat out etched his conviction deeper into the space between them. "Only the two of us knew about the time capsule," he growled, jabbing a finger toward himself and then to the direction of Shantanu's room. "The fact that you know about it can only mean that he is faking the coma and playing a game with me." His voice was a thunderclap in the quiet corridor, and a couple of nurses glanced their way, their faces masks of professional concern. Manu halted, his outburst echoing off the hospital walls. The lady's eyes, for a moment, mirrored the confusion thrumming through his veins. She took a tentative step forward, her hands reaching out as if to bridge the chasm of disbelief that lay between them. "Brother," she began, her voice quivering, with an urgency that Manu felt deep in his marrow. "I can understand your skepticism. This is all not normal, and I myself am confused about what is happening." She bit her lower lip, a mannerism so quintessentially Shantanu that it gave Manu pause. "How can I convince you that it is in fact me? How about you ask me about something? Obviously, if this is a game, I could not have told this girl all about our life down to every minute detail." Manu's jaw tightened, the storm within him not yet abated. His mind raced, searching for a memory so personal, so sacred, that no one else could possibly know. The question, when it came to him, was one that clawed at his heart. "All right then," he said, his voice laced with a challenge. "So remind me," he challenged, "what was the oath we used to take every day as kids, while our parents were still around? The one we promised to never break, no matter where life took us?" The lady's lips parted slightly, a flicker of recognition sparking in her gaze. Her voice dropped to a whisper, as though the words were too potent to be spoken aloud. "We promised we would find the ocean's heart, the mythical stone from our mother's bedtime stories. We swore to unite no matter how far apart we were, to search for it together until we found it." Manu's breath caught in his throat. The ocean's heart, a tale woven from the fabric of their childhood imagination, a shared dream that had bonded them through countless foster homes and uncertain tomorrows. Could it really be Shantanu, his brother, ensnared within this woman's frame? The air around Manu grew heavier, the walls of logic crumbling as the impossible stood smiling weakly, imploring him to believe.